Facts about Africa. Breaking stereotypes by debunking common misconceptions about Africa. Africa is a continent of rich diversity, complex histories, and dynamic societies. Unfortunately, it is also a place that is often subject to harmful stereotypes and misconceptions. From assuming that Africa is a monolithic entity to perpetuating myths about poverty, war, and disease, these oversimplifications do a disservice to the incredible diversity and vibrancy of African societies. In this video, we will explore some of the most common myths about Africa and work to debunk them. By doing so, we hope to promote a more nuanced and accurate understanding of this complex and fascinating continent. Myth number 1: Africa is a country. One of the most persistent myths about Africa is the idea that it is a single country rather than a diverse continent made up of 54 distinct nations. This misconception is perpetuated in popular media, where news stories often refer to Africa rather than specific countries, and in casual conversations where people may use Africa as a shorthand for a homogenous place. This myth not only erases the unique cultural and linguistic identities of each African nation, but it also reinforces harmful stereotypes that ignore the diversity of the continent. To debunk this myth, it's important to first acknowledge the breadth of countries that make up Africa. These range from Algeria in the north to Zimbabwe in the south, and from Cape Verde in the west to Somalia in the east. Each country has its own distinct culture, history, and society. For example, in Ethiopia, the official language is Amharic and the majority of people follow the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. In Nigeria, on the other hand, the official language is English and the population is divided between Christianity and Islam. By recognizing the unique identities of each African country, we can begin to appreciate the diversity of the continent as a whole. It's also important to highlight the incredible diversity of cultures, languages, and traditions within each African country. Even within a single nation, there may be dozens of distinct ethnic groups, each with their own language, customs, and beliefs. In South Africa, for example, there are 11 official languages recognized, including Zulu, Xhosa, and Afrikaans. In Kenya, there are over 40 distinct ethnic groups, each with their own unique traditions and practices. By acknowledging this diversity, we can begin to move beyond the simplistic idea of Africa as a single entity and recognize the complexity and richness of African societies. Myth number 2: Africa is all poverty, war, and disease. While it's true that some parts of Africa face challenges such as poverty, war, and disease, it's important to recognize that these issues are not unique to the continent. Many countries around the world, including those in the West, have faced similar challenges at different points in their histories. Moreover, these challenges do not define the entire continent of Africa. In fact, there are many positive aspects of African society that are often overlooked in discussions of the continent. As economies on the continent continue to develop, more and more people are entering the middle class and enjoying a higher standard of living. One example is the growth of the middle class in many African countries. In addition, there has been a rise of tech startups in African cities, with entrepreneurs using innovative solutions to address local challenges. There have also been significant improvements in healthcare and education across the continent, with many African countries making progress in reducing infant mortality rates, increasing literacy rates, and expanding access to healthcare. Myth number 3: Africa is primitive and underdeveloped. Another harmful myth about Africa is the idea that it is a place stuck in the past, with no technological advancements or modern infrastructure. This myth is not only inaccurate, but it also ignores the many technological advancements and innovations that are happening across the continent. For example, Africa has been a leader in mobile money, with services like M-Pesa in Zambia and EcoCash in Zimbabwe enabling people to make payments and transfer money using their mobile phones. Additionally, there have been significant developments in renewable energy on the continent, with countries like Morocco and South Africa investing heavily in solar and wind power. African cities are also rapidly growing and developing, with many becoming hubs for business and investment. Lagos, Nigeria, for example, has a booming tech industry and is home to many startups and entrepreneurs. Nairobi, Kenya, is another example of a city that is quickly becoming a hub for innovation and entrepreneurship. By recognizing these positive developments, we can begin to shift the narrative around Africa and see the continent as a place of growth and opportunity. Myth number 4: Africans are all the same. The idea that Africans are all the same is another common stereotype that needs to be challenged. Africa is a vast and diverse continent with over 50 countries, each with its unique culture, history, and traditions. In fact, Africa is home to over 3,000 ethnic groups, each with its unique customs and languages. It's essential to recognize the diversity within African countries and to avoid making broad generalizations about people based on their continent or country of origin. Assuming that all Africans are the same not only ignores the richness of the continent's diversity but also undermines individual identity and the unique experiences of people from different African countries. While some commonalities exist among various African cultures, such as a deep respect for family, a strong sense of community, and vibrant music and dance traditions, these are not universal characteristics shared by all African societies. It's essential to take the time to learn about different African cultures and to approach people from different African countries with an open mind and a willingness to understand their unique perspectives and experiences. Doing so can foster deeper connections, respect, and understanding, and help to break down harmful stereotypes that limit our ability to appreciate the richness and diversity of African societies. Myth number 5: Africans live in trees. In the historical past across Africa, there were certain tribes from different countries who were mostly hunters and gatherers. It means that they would travel from one point to another in search of good grazing lands or food. We must appreciate that during those days, there were too many dangerous wild animals in unknown environments. It would have made sense for them to seek shelter in trees temporarily. To debunk this myth further, we have all seen European and American Tarzan movies and his house in the tree. Yet the world has not labeled Europeans or Americans as living in trees. The fact is that people in Africa live in houses just as much as the rest of the world. There are all types of houses one could afford to build for their purposes. In this video, we've explored some of the most common myths and misconceptions about Africa. From the idea that Africa is a single country to the notion that it is consumed by poverty and conflict, these myths have contributed to a harmful and incomplete view of the continent. By highlighting the diversity and complexity of African societies, we can begin to challenge these stereotypes and appreciate the many strengths and opportunities that exist in Africa today. It's important to remember that stereotypes don't just harm those who are the targets of them, but they also limit our own understanding and ability to connect with others. By breaking down these myths, we can open ourselves up to new experiences, perspectives, and ideas. We can challenge our own assumptions and biases, and become better global citizens in the process. If you want to learn more about Africa and its many cultures, languages, and traditions, there are many resources available to you. Consider reading books by African authors, watching documentaries about African history and culture, or attending cultural events in your community. By taking the time to learn about the complexities of the continent, we can move beyond harmful stereotypes and appreciate the rich diversity and unique strengths of African societies. We hope this video helped you. Thank you for watching.